welcome back to another episode of Come Over for Dinner. I'm so excited you're joining me today. Today I have a very special guest all the way from Colorado. Her name is Carole Whitener. She is here visiting her sister, Valerie Wentz, and I am so glad I was able to snag her for a little while for a podcast. She has 3 children and 11 grandchildren, and she has lived all over the United States with her husband. In fact, in one of the places they lived, they owned their own cafe, and she has fond memories of cooking dinner for her family. Her mother told her that at 9 years old, she actually cooked a dinner. She doesn't know if she remembers that or if she just remembers the story her mom tells her. But even at 9, she was in there able to whip up a dinner to help the family. And of course, was doing it pretty often as a young teenager. So welcome, Carole.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Yes. Well, thank you for taking time out of your trip to come join me on a podcast. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Oh, my goodness.
Where to begin?
Where to begin?
She has a lot to tell. So,
yes, I like cooking. I love cooking. I always have. I think there are lots of things about cooking that fit my personality. I love the hospitality of it. I love preparing good food for the people that I love. I love buying groceries. I know so many people nowadays are ordering their groceries online, but I actually like to go see what's in the store, what's available. How can I use this to do something? Maybe I'll encounter a new spice or a new whatever. So I actually even love the process of buying groceries. I'm 65. It's just my husband and I now. We live in the same town as one of our daughters and her 4 children and her husband. So we get to have them over for dinner, but really life has a very different rhythm than it has when your house is full of children. And so it's my husband and I, grill a protein, cook a vegetable. That's kind of what we've gotten down to now. But I do like cooking and so happy when I'm able to use my skills to help someone else.
You lived all over the United States. One of the places you lived was in Kentucky. And I remember you telling me about a Christmas tea you hosted there. Tell me a little bit about that.
When we lived in Kentucky, we lived in a historic district right across the river from Cincinnati. And it was an area that had really suffered through the 50s, 60s, and 70s with, homelessness and all that kind of stuff. But it was starting to be revitalized. And we bought a house there. And there was a historic foundation that tried to raise money to do different kinds of projects, like maybe put in park benches, buy trash cans, put up street lights, plant planters in the summer so that we'd have flowers on the corner. In order to raise the revenue to do that, they had a home tour. But early December in Kentucky can be you're at the mercy of the weather. So you might have a home tour and do all the hard work and no one would show up.
Right. Is there a lot of snow and ice in Kentucky?
There can be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say probably half the time there's iffy weather. And so, we're looking for other streams of revenue. And there was a friend who was like me. She loved cooking. She always wanted to have a bake sale. So we kind of started out talking about the bake sale idea, but then it eventually evolved into having a tea. We were excited about it. It was probably 6 months before we were going to do our first one, the first weekend of December. We were planning frantically. We didn't really have a concept yet of what it was going to be like, but we knew what we wanted it to be like. And about probably in early October, someone called us and said, hey, there's a lady here who is getting ready to buy a house here, and she wants to be a part of the tea. She is a great-granddaughter of Colonel James Taylor, who was a very famous resident from that area. His house was in the neighborhood. So we met with her one day, and she is probably the person who inspired the tea the most in a way. She had tons of china, tons of silver, tons of teapots and cups and saucers and all that kind of stuff. We called her the patron saint of the tea.
She was waiting for her moment. The dishes were waiting
she
for
was
their
waiting
moment.
for her moment. And so that really elevated the idea of the tea, because we hadn't really known like how we want to do this, but how are we going to pull this off? So she became our patron saint and lent us as long as I was there. I don't know if she still is, because the tea is still going on, but I've been gone for about 10 years from the tea. It turned out to be very elegant. people would live in their homes for the day. The tour was on 2 days, on a Saturday and a Sunday. And she would bring her stuff, and then we would do all the baking. Our goal was to have 21 items for each person to have, including a soup and some desserts, and then sandwiches and anything else that we could come up with that we thought would be fun.
Where did the number 21 come from?
We just decided that was a good amount of food. We tried to make everything 1 ounce.
Okay.
So everyone would get 21 ounces of food plus their tea. And also, because we wanted to try unusual things, we wanted people to always be able to find something that they'd like, even if they didn't eat everything. But turns out everyone eats everything.
Oh, yes. I'd want to try it all.
Yeah.
And if it's small portions, then you can try it all.
Then you can try it all, right.
It's
So we had
out.
3-tier stands and all kinds of stuff. It was very, very, very fun. We usually did 3 seatings a day for 2 days. And I think the most that we ever did was 30 people.
At one sitting?
At one sitting, yeah. So that would be about 180 people plus the people who were helping and all that kind of stuff. We tried to cook for 200 portion servings.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, yeah. It was crazy, but it was fun. And it turns out people really like doing those kind of things. It always sells out immediately. No matter what the weather is, the people show up. So it turned out to be a great
once-a-year event that they are not going to miss.
Yeah, it turned out to be a great revenue stream.
I
Yeah,
can imagine.
yeah.
So then it was able to accomplish the mission of raising funds for all of those different projects that you mentioned.
Yeah.
That's
And so it was very fun. And for the people who were going on the tour, to go into another house was also like a bonus because the tea house wasn't on the tour. And so people got to see another house. And so it worked out really well.
And then there was food and drink involved, which is the
And then
best.
there was food and drink involved, yeah, which
So
was
a house
fantastic.
tour would be fun, but if there's no food and drink, I don't know. Maybe I would sit at home if there was snow and ice.
So it was.
But 21 courses or 21 bites of food and drink, I'm there.
Yeah, we did 3 or 4 kinds of scones, little tea cakes, 3 or 4 kinds of sandwiches, some kind of soup that you could sip. So you didn't need a spoon.
And drinks.
And drinks, and then the tea and the things. And I think what prompted us to start talking about this was we made our own clotted cream, which is actually very easy to do. It's just time consuming.
Now, clotted cream is mostly used in Britain. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can we make clotted cream over here easily?
I think it's very easy.
Okay. Tell me about how you make clotted cream because I have never made clotted cream.
Okay. Well, you just need cream. It cannot be ultra pasteurized.
Okay. So where do you find the non-ultra pasteurized?
At the time that we were doing the tea, we were buying it from Whole Foods. And they used to sell it in big half-gallon sizes. I don't know if that's still true or not.
But you're right. In looking at a more specialty store that would offer those unique options.
Yeah, or maybe if you even had a dairy in your area or something like that. And then you just pour your cream into a shallow Pyrex dish and you put it in your oven at 170 degrees overnight. Take it out, let it kind of come to room temperature, put it in your refrigerator, and you will get a layer on the top and the whey underneath that just separates, just like kind of when you're making butter. And then you scrape the whey off. I mean, just scrape the top off, throw away the whey, or keep it to put in cream soups or sauces or something like that, and put it in the refrigerator. And it congeals like butter or hardens like butter. You can whip it if you want to with a mixer, and that makes it kind of a more homogeneous mixture. It's a little lump.
That? Or which one do you prefer?
I think it depends on what you want to do with it. If you want it maybe to be a nice presentation, whip it. And you can use some of the whey if you think it's a little thick to do that. And then we would just scoop it like in a 1 ounce scoop. Scoop it out and then put it in the refrigerator. And then we could just plate them with the scone for people to put on it. But it's super easy.
And it's super such an elegant brunch.
Yes. And it's so
Christmas tea.
Yeah, it's super delicious. Most of the stuff that you buy is very commercial, but when it's made fresh, it has like little golden specks of butterfat in it that have caramelized.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's very delicious.
No wonder people would come no matter what the weather was.
Yeah.
Once a year, they get to try clotted cream.
Yeah.
So at your Christmas tea, do you always have the exact same menu every year?
No, we would try every year to do everything different, a different soup, different scones, different everything. The one thing, however, we did, because it was an English Christmas tea, was we made sugar plums. And I, at the time, did not know what sugar plums are. But sugar plums are ground, dried fruit and nuts. You can put different kinds of spices in them, like maybe cloves or whatever. Sometimes soak them in some kind of alcohol, bourbon or something like that. Then you make them into little like 1-inch balls. And then after they've kind of set up and they get a little bit of a skin on them, then you roll them in sugar 2 or 3 times so that they're super sparkly. And then they're just these little dried fruit and nut
Like
delicious things.
Almost candies.
Yes, candies. And that's why they were so popular with little kids, was because they were so sweet.
Now we know more about the sugar plum fairy.
Yeah, the sugar plum fairy, yeah.
And what she was bringing.
Yeah, what she was bringing
to delight
them.
the children.
And they were so excited,
Well, to have it every single year, I'm guessing your guests coming requested that. That was probably a really special part of the meal.
Everyone loved them. Like me, hardly anyone had ever really actually considered what sugar plums were. So to find out that there were sugar plums on the menu and then
actually
be able to taste them. Yeah, and they are really good. We tended to go high on dried apricots. Dried apricots we thought had a really nice taste. And then golden raisins and what was the other thing? There were 3 things. Ginger.
Okay.
Candied ginger. And then
to get this recipe from
they're really, really good. Yeah.
That would be fun to try at Christmas time.
It is fun. And if you have second graders,
they can know what sugar plums taste
they can know
like.
what sugar plums are when they read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." Yeah. They're very good. They're very, very good.
Okay.
And everyone should try them if you've never tried them in your life. I'll send you the recipe.
Okay. Sounds
you
good.
can put it on your website.
So this English-inspired Christmas celebration, is this the menu you would use for your Christmas tea?
It is not, no.
This is more of like it for your Christmas dinner.
For my Christmas dinner, yes.
Okay.
Our for the Christmas tea, like I said, it was scones and sandwiches and that kind of stuff.
She has all kinds of menus and recipes. And in front of me, I am looking at a Christmas celebration menu, which is English-inspired, as I mentioned. And it has a lot of incredible ideas. I'll read a few of them, and then you can tell me a little bit about it. Ginger martini, Christmas punch, prime rib with au jus, horseradish cream, individual Yorkshire puddings, creamed onions, butter poached asparagus with lemon, cranberry ice. There's rolls, a whipped cream cake, a coconut cream pie, and it goes on with lots of really detailed instructions. So tell me about this menu. Did you create this over years? Is this something that you serve with to your family every Christmas?
Well, when we talked about where the places that we've lived, we actually lived in England for about a little less than a year, about 9 months. And we really came to enjoy English food, believe it or not. It's not what people normally think of English food. But anyway, so we tried to come home and recreate some things that we had for our family to remember that tradition of having lived there. And so I would say 9 times out of 10, our Christmas celebrations since then have been this menu. But, on occasion, maybe we've done something else, but for the most part, yeah.
Well, this sounds delicious and close enough to an American menu that I might just have to make it. My kids actually, well, I guess Thanksgiving is more turkey, but ham or turkey, they always geared towards the ham. Some people do other meats, but at Christmas time, they've asked in the past, the teenagers have asked if I would cook ribs.
Oh.
So there's a rib recipe I have that is like the favorite.
Yes.
And so it's really funny that, but I think they would go with prime rib. That would also be a good choice.
I can't imagine anyone who wouldn't go with prime rib. It's just such a delicious,
It is a holiday favorite.
It is a holiday favorite, and it's very, I don't want to say regal, but kind of regal in a way in its presentation, and guys love it. They're not necessarily crazy about turkey or anything like that, but guys love prime rib.
And it's it's a lot more special than just a ham.
Yeah. So anyway, it is a fun menu.
Well, she has a menu that I can post on my website at comeoverfordinner.com, and she'll have a blog post, and there will be lots of information there. So you really need to go and check it out. It will be under her name, Carole Whitener, on this particular menu, because Christmas is such a big event that we celebrate, and a big menu. And a lot of times you're doing a lot of the components yourself. I mean, sometimes it's a potluck, but if you are doing a lot of the components yourself, then she has a timeline of what can be made in advance and how far in advance. And so you can get it all done in a reasonable amount of time and not feel at the very end that you were just crazy.
Yes. That's
no one wants to feel that at Christmas
the goal.
time. So, yes, lots of great drink recipes and food recipes.
I think cooking prime rib can be very intimidating. It's usually expensive. People don't do it often, maybe have never done it before. It is really very easy to cook. And I think people should not be intimidated by the thought of cooking a prime rib because it's really not that hard. My favorite method is 500 degrees for 15 minutes. Then you turn it down the oven and do it for, I think it's 5 minutes a pound after that. And then you just turn off the oven and leave it for 2 hours.
Okay.
And
it continues to cook.
Yes, continues to cook in the oven while you're doing your other stuff. You can smoke prime rib. You can pack it in rock salt and mustard and roast it like that. That is also very, very
Sounds
good.
delicious.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
very
mustard.
good. Yeah, that's very, very good. So mostly I would say do not be intimidated by prime rib. And also, I've always lived in areas that have King Soopers, Kroger's, that chain of grocery stores, and they always have great prices on prime rib.
And a lot of local chains, they'll put things on sale
Right.
for the holidays because they want you to come in for the sales and then keep doing all your shopping because people are buying a lot for their
Yes,
meal.
they are. Yes, they are.
They're
And
spending
then
a
sometimes
lot.
it is like if you spend $100, you can get it for half price or whatever. Yeah. So also don't be intimidated and think that the cost is going to be.
No, it's a great tip. You should really check out a lot of them have papers, but everybody's online now.
Yeah,
If you wanted to look at their ad online or even just go in.
Yeah,
But
just go in.
Check it out. And
Check
see
it
if
out.
you
That
can
would be
afford
how
it.
I would do it. I'd go in.
You just go and check. Go and look.
Yeah.
Well, in some stores, I don't know, it seems like they're doing this less now, but some stores honor the ads of other stores. Like you could, if you heard of it as somewhere else or saw the ad, but you didn't know if the store you normally shopped at does the same price match, you could at least ask.
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt because a lot of times they're willing to do it because they do want your business.
Yeah, they
don't
want
you
your
going
business,
across
so they
town and spending the money.
Uh-huh.
One thing that you mentioned, use a meat thermometer.
Oh, yes.
Which
yes.
you have mentioned your temperatures and you list very detailed how to do it so that it's not overcooked. But it's so important to have a good meat thermometer. And there are some on the shop page and there's all kinds of different ranges. I mean, you can get some that are very expensive that read in an instant and then others that are still reliable that aren't near as expensive as the top dollar one. So, you can do your own research, but there are a few recommendations from people. I think I just listed the top 2, maybe in the instant read category from America's Test Kitchen. And then I have at least 1 or 2 others from just home cooks that have
one thing
recommended
about prime rib or any piece of meat, if you get the kind that has a probe in it and then the wire comes out and you set the monitor on the top, you don't have to open your oven because you just lose so much temperature every time you do that. And you can see the curve of the temperature is very slow at first. And so you think, oh my gosh, in the beginning, it's taken it 1 hour to go up 25 degrees. And you calculate it out and you think, oh my gosh, this is not going to be ready when I thought it was. But the temperature goes much faster as it gets hot. So being able to see how fast your temperature is rising helps you know, oh, look, this is probably going to be done in the next 2 or 3 minutes, rather than saying, oh, it's going to be 25 more minutes. And then you overcook your prime rib or your turkey. Overcooked turkey is it's the
bad.
worst.
It's bad.
And it's in the temperature range between raw and overcooked is very small, and you want to hit it, get it out of the oven so that it just doesn't continue to dry out. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite thermometer?
I have found thermometers don't last a really long time for some reason. I don't know if it's the heat. I've had Williams-Sonoma ones that didn't last any longer than ones from Walmart. Okay. So I would say don't spend a ton of money, but buy one. Get to know how it works, use it till it dies, and consider it a good friend that passed on and buy another one. Yeah.
Good advice.
The other thing about thermometers, they're good for everything. Baked goods, cookies, custards, if you're cooking jelly or whatever. So if you learn to use a thermometer well, it really is it's like having a sidekick in the kitchen because it helps you do everything that you do to the best of your ability. You don't overcook your custard pie. You don't not boil your jelly long enough, or your candy or whatever. I really think if I had to say one thing that's really good in a kitchen it's a good thermometer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. And if you have an old one, maybe test it. I had a candy thermometer that I made something and it went just completely awry. And I'd done everything perfectly, exactly how I'd always done. And so I decided, I just kept puzzling over it. I decided I'm going to take the thermometer and stick it in boiling water, which should read 212 degrees. And it read something like 222 degrees. So it was reading 10 degrees off. And so I had to write a note to myself that the thermometer will read 10 degrees higher than reality.
Right.
And so what I was doing was thinking it's high, and it wasn't. I needed 10 more degrees. So anyway,
yeah,
that thing went in the trash, but I had to use it for a while until I could order one.
Yeah. If you look at your mercury column in your thermometer, and if it has mercury in 2 places, something's happened to it. Usually it's that it got way too hot. It was above the temperature that the thermometer could register, and the mercury, I don't know what the right word is, broke or whatever. And so, yeah, it will never be accurate again if you have a gap between 2 pieces of mercury. Okay. So if you look at your thermometer and you see that, it's like, goodbye. Yeah. I don't think, if there's a way to recover, if there's a way to recover from that, I don't know what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's just purchase a new one.
Yeah, purchase a new one.
Get online and look at our recommendations. We'll find a good one to put out there. Let's take a quick break. Are you searching for hands-on activities to help your kids explore the practical side of science? Look no further than your kitchen. Inquisicook blends food science and culinary arts into an engaging program that puts delicious food on the family table. Let Inquisicook do the teaching with lesson videos, reliable recipes, and assessment tools that put students on track for success. Their online platform is easy to navigate and optimized for mobile, so the learning experience can move from the classroom to the kitchen without a hitch. Inquisicook turns curious students into intuitive cooks, not just recipe followers. Say goodbye to the tyranny of the ingredients list and say hello to utilizing what's in season, what's on sale, or what's in the fridge. Visit Inquisicook.com to view sample lessons, then check out the recipe gallery to see just how crave-worthy science can be. In your primary recipe, you talk about making your own homemade beef stock. Tell me a little bit about this, because sometimes that's daunting to people to make their own stock, but you say it's a very easy process. So tell me a little bit about how you do it.
Basically, you're going to get meaty beef bones, and you're going to roast them till they're nice and roasty, toasty, and you're going to put a few spices with them and put it in water and let it cook basically for a long time. That draws the flavor out of the bones and out of the meat and concentrates them through the long cooking. There are basically 4 ways that I would recommend to make stock. You can make it on the stove top, like what you would probably think of for stock. That requires about 12 hours of low simmering on the stove. And then you're going to drain it, quickly cool it, put it in your refrigerator or your freezer, and save it until you need it. You could also make it in a crock pot, which you put all of your bones in there. That takes about sometimes 18 to 24 hours of cooking. And that results in a stock that is maybe not as flavorful. It doesn't have the heat has not been there to really draw the flavor out of the bones. You can also cook it in a big Dutch oven and put it in your oven overnight. Start it on your stovetop and get it hot. Put it in your oven. Let it stay in your oven overnight, again for about 12 hours. Or you can make it in an Instant Pot or other pressure cooker. That takes about an hour and a half to do. And that's my preferred way. I do it fast, get it over with. Yeah, get it over with and put it in the freezer. I like to store stock that I've made in the freezer in, I think I might have put that link on there, straight-sided mason jars that don't go in at the top, because then you can set them in warm water. It melts around the outside. You can just dump it in. It comes right out of your jar. And I like using mason jars because they don't take up much room, and they go more vertical than they'd go horizontal. So
are those the wide mouth jars?
Yeah, the wide mouth jars. And they don't make them, I think, bigger than 24 ounces. So that's about the biggest size that you can get. You have to remember to leave head space so that they don't crack. So, you know.
Because it will expand.
It will expand. And so maybe even below the head space line that they have on the jar, maybe even a half an inch less than that to make sure that you have plenty of room for expansion. And then au jus is beef stock that's been reduced and concentrated. If you add a starch to it to thicken it, then it becomes a gravy. So what you're looking for with au jus is a concentrated, well-flavored beef stock. So between your herbs and your beef and your vegetables, you should be able to get that. If it doesn't turn out exactly like you thought it would, you can always add a little bouillon to it to round out the flavor, a little bit of wine, something like that. But yeah, and then you end up with this great au jus to put over your prime rib. And then I said on there that we always cook much more prime rib than we need for dinner. Our day after Christmas meal is French dips. And so we have the au jus because we've made
That's a
enough.
delicious sandwich.
Yeah, and so that is kind of the family tradition at our house.
Then nobody has to cook the next day.
No, nobody has to cook the next day.
And you're
That's
still
right.
getting Christmas leftovers.
Right. And if you cook enough, then, there are people who will have 2 or 3 French dips over the next 24 hours, not just at lunch the next day.
Oh, yeah. No, that would, you definitely want to have enough of the meat so that everyone is happy.
Yes.
Well, and that au jus is so flavorful. You do mention that to your beef stock, you don't add salt because, at least when you're first making it, add salt once it's finished. Do you always add the salt at the end, or do you wait before you freeze it? Do you add salt?
I usually don't add salt after I've reduced it to adjust what the flavor is that I want, the flavor that I want. If you put too much salt in, or even enough salt in, but you're reducing it and you're driving that liquid off of the stock, then could end up with something too salty, and nobody really wants that.
This sounds amazing. What about individual Yorkshire
puddings?
Yorkshire or Yorkshire?
Yorkshire. Well, it depends on where you're from.
Oh, well,
I'm
from the South.
You're from the South, so it's like
it's Yorkshire.
It's a 3-syllable word. I understand
individual Yorkshire puddings. Tell me about those. I've never made those before.
If you've made popovers ever before, you've basically made what is a Yorkshire pudding.
Okay. She's sophisticated. She said Yorkshire.
No, I'm sorry.
No, you've lived in England, so you're very sophisticated.
It's just milk, eggs.
Yorkshire.
Yeah, milk and eggs and flour. And there are 2 secrets probably to good Yorkshire puddings, and that is to mix it up early enough, so that your flour gets totally wet. All of your grains of flour get super saturated. And then the other one is you need a really hot oven, and it needs to stay really hot so that they will puff. That's what makes them puff. This is another place where you don't want to keep opening the oven to see if they're done yet.
Because they'll fall.
They'll fall. Yeah.
I've done that when I made profiteroles.
Yes,
it's a French pastry, I believe.
Yes,
and it totally ruins them. They won't come back.
Yeah, they won't come back.
I can imagine the same as
this is true, and it's
your recipe.
It's a very simple. You just have to not look in the oven.
Control yourself.
Control yourself. Yes, and the crispier you let them get, the darker brown you let them get, the less chance they have of shrinkage when they come out of the oven. If they still have a lot of moisture on the inside, they will probably collapse a little bit. So that's one thing I say about cooking these is have them ready, have your oven hot, and when people start getting called to the table, pour them up really fast, pop them in the oven, go for the prayer, go for the wine opening, go for the whatever. And about the time people are ready to start plating their food, then you bring them out, put them in a basket, and then let everyone have them.
That sounds delicious. Yeah. Something hot out of the oven. You say on your recipe here that Yorkshire puddings were a cheap way to extend the flavor of meat in Victorian England. Originally, the pudding was cooked in the drip pan under a roasting piece of meat, just as the meat was finishing its cooking. Mutton or lamb was the meat used in the oldest recipe for Yorkshire puddings. That huge Yorkshire pudding was cut into serving pieces and served with the meat, or more often as a meat substitute for staff.
Yes, exactly.
Here we make individual puddings for ease of prep and presentation's sake. But if you're a little unsure, you can make a practice batch a couple of weeks before.
Yeah.
And they are also delicious with butter and jam. Yes. Can they be served the next morning, or do they're not very good?
No, they're pretty much like one and done. Yeah.
You need to cook the amount you want. Yeah. Don't make a lot of leftovers.
And there's something that you pour gravy over, eat it with your meat. Mm-hmm. It's
I'll have to do the
fun, but
I'll have to do the practice run.
You have to do the practice run, yes.
And then I'll be brave enough to do it at Christmas time.
Yes.
Well, that sounds like a really fun and different thing to add to a Christmas meal.
Yes. Everyone likes them. Everyone thinks they're very fun. It's because it's so unusual. Yeah.
Yes, it's very unique and very English. You have a horseradish sauce. Is this also served with your meat?
With the prime rib, yes.
Do people choose au jus or horseradish, or do you mix those? Put a dollop of each?
Most people do both. Most, the kids don't do horseradish sauce, but adults usually do. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can usually, I don't know if anyone knows, you usually can buy horseradish fresh at the grocery store. I don't know if people, it's just like, it looks like a bone.
Really?
It's like long and kind of brown and like.
Now that you say that, I don't think I have. I've bought ginger, but horseradish?
Yeah, it's stringy. It's like a radish that grew too long.
Is it is it like next to ginger?
Probably in that same area.
Same area.
And it's usually, you probably will buy a piece about that long.
I'll have to look for it.
Yeah. And
I feel like my eyes have always passed over it.
Yeah, because you probably don't, it's not very beautiful.
Would a small town sell it? That may be another.
Probably.
Maybe.
I think they probably would at this time of year. Yeah.
Okay.
This is when it's harvested. Yeah. So then you just grate it, mix it all together, and it's really, really, really good.
Better than the jar, I guess.
I would say yes, better than the jar.
Okay. To recap her menu, we've talked a bit about prime rib with au jus, horseradish cream, individual Yorkshire puddings. Now we're getting to creamed onions. Tell me a bit about the creamed onions. Your recipe says it's a pain, but worth it.
If you start with fresh onions, it's a pain because you got to get the skin off of them.
What are boiler onions?
They're just little onions. They usually are in a bag where we live. It's called Melissa's. But you can also buy onions frozen. So if you wanted to do that, that would be someone else has done the hard work.
Do they taste as good?
I would say no, because the frozen onions have lost some of their texture.
Okay. But it's still, you could do it and it'd be okay.
Yeah,
but
you
it's
still do it. Yeah,
fresh.
but it's also, so this is something you could, boil the onions the day before to get the skins off of them. You cut an X on the bottom, cut off the root, boil them, blanch them, and then take them out, put them through cold water, and then you pop them, and the little onion pops out, and the skin stays behind. But if you want to do 30 onions, you have to do that 30 times, or 60 onions, you have to do that 60 times.
So it can be tedious, but in the end,
yes.
it's worth it.
That is worth it, yeah. Then you just caramelize the onions with a little butter and sugar, put some cloves in there, remove the cloves, and reduce the brown to bits in the pan with some vermouth or in some cream and let it reduce. And it's very good. Very good. This is my daughter who lives in Seattle. This is her request every year, is that we have that. My other daughter requests hot rolls and dressing. But
this one says we have to have the creamed onions.
We have to have the creamed
onions. Sound very delicious.
They're a little sweet, but the cloves give them a little spiciness. Yeah. And they taste very seasonal. They taste very seasonal. Yeah.
Well, and there's cream in there, 2 cups of cream.
2 cups of cream.
That's always good.
Yeah.
Especially at Christmas time. And then for another vegetable, a butter poached asparagus with lemon.
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. You just cook your asparagus in butter, which is, leaves it very tender and succulent.
What's your tip for snapping the ends of asparagus? Some people take a knife, but what I've always seen is you just snap it where it wants to break. Is that how you do it?
Yes, I snap it where it wants to break, but then I'll, stand them up and slice them nicely then across that so that they do have nice ends. And then you make sure that you've gotten the tough end off of it, but it still looks, for presentation, like it. Like I tried.
Meant to.
Yes, like I tried.
Right,
like I tried.
And then, of course, at Christmas time, we have to have some kind of cranberry. You have a cranberry ice as well as a cranberry relish recipe. And this cranberry relish recipe, it's funny because you put down that your maternal grandmother made this at Thanksgiving and Christmas. My grandmother made this at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it's almost identical. The only thing added to yours is pecans. Hers had the cranberries, the orange, and the sugar, but no pecans. But pecans added would be delicious.
Yes, it is. It adds a very nutty to it. Yeah.
And anyone that has not had this before, everybody's probably had cranberry sauce. And if you have not made your own homemade cranberry sauce, you just buy a bag of cranberries, and it's so easy. You need to do that. It is so much better than the whole cranberry sauce you buy in the store. I still buy the jellied, to go with it because the texture is different. I have made my own jellied, but probably childhood memories. I do still like the canned jelly. I have made many times both homemade from cranberries for the cranberry relish, all you do is buy a bag of cranberries, a whole orange. Well, yours is not the whole orange. My grandmother's was the whole orange, and including the peel.
Oh, I put the peel
sugar
on, but get rid of the pith. I peel it with a.
Look at you go. Yours is probably even. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, I just do the zest. Like, it would be the zest, but I just do it with the potato peeler and take it off. Then peel the orange and get rid of the white stuff,
so that there's no bitter in it.
And then just put.
Okay, that's going to ramp it up a little bit because with hers, you just blend it all together. Food processor all together. The sugar, the orange, and the cranberries, which is super fast and easy. And people that have not had it before, they always like it.
They do always like it. It's really just so
unique.
good. It is really unique, and it's so good.
Unless you just take cranberries.
And I said we used to make crab cakes after Christmas before we did the prime rib stuff, and it's great with crab cakes.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So if you want to make crab cakes and have cranberry relish with them, this goes great with it.
And then a cranberry ice. This is from your mom, who got it from a well-known local foodie in your hometown. This is a really great Christmas recipe because you can make this at least 48 hours before serving it. So tell me a bit about a cranberry ice.
Oh, I'd say it's really ice cream. That's basically what it boils down. It's ice cream made with cranberries, but it's a beautiful pink color, and it looks just very festive on the table. You can sprinkle it, you can put some mint leaves on it or some rosemary on it or some pomegranate or rills or something like that. But even just on its own, just a scoop in a stemmed glass is beautiful, and it's super easy to make. I just made some last night at my daughter's house. I put in the the freezer for Thanksgiving. But you just take a quart of cranberries, put them in some water, cook them until they pop, and they will kind of pop like popcorn, which is interesting. They go pop, pop, pop. And then when they're all popped, find something to do with them to puree them. I have a ricer, and I put mine through a ricer and get rid of the skins. But I also sometimes do it in the food processor, and I just have little pink specks on it because of the skin. So whatever you can do to puree them, mix them with the sugar, and add the zest and juice of one lemon and the zest and juice of one orange and a pint of heavy cream, and then put it in the freezer to freeze. And then when you scoop it out, everyone loves it. Everyone wants seconds.
So if you do it in the food processor, the skins stay. You're not trying to push it through a sieve.
No. That's just the original way was to put it through a sieve. I mean, a ricer, so that's what I did. But I found food processors probably weren't even invented when this recipe was.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they just
so
use the whole
cranberry.
Food,
just throw them in a food processor.
Well, this one you also put cream in there, and so this sounds delicious as well.
Yeah, it is very good. It is very good.
Can you tell I love cream? It's cranberry ice cream with a gorgeous pink hue.
Yeah, and it's a great way to introduce kids to cranberries because it's a little bit of a different taste than they're used to, but because it's ice cream, they'll eat it.
This is a great holiday recipe. Perfect for Christmas time.
Yes.
Then we have to have some bread. You specifically have potato dough hot rolls with butter and jam or honey. So here, this is another recipe you got from your mom, who sounds like a fabulous baker. She was the one you opened the restaurant with, isn't it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So she obviously has lots and lots of good recipes. She got it from someone else, but that's how recipes are.
That's how recipes are.
They're just
passed
down, but everybody kind of tweaks it a little bit, so we can call it your own.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, good.
The longer this dough is refrigerated, the more fermented it becomes, developing a sourdough-like tang. And you can keep this about 5 days, which is another make ahead. So tell me a little bit about this potato bread.
I just thought
rolls.
this is a perfect bread for Idaho because it's made with potatoes.
That's true.
Yeah. It's basically a bread dough, but you do add 2 cups of mashed potatoes, 1 cup of mashed potato, and the 2 cups of water that you cook it in. And I think that's probably what causes it to ferment a little bit. It doesn't necessarily get a sourdough tang, but it does get this fermented flavor that goes along with it. And it's a very, 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 very good dough. We make cinnamon rolls out of it. I think I say one of the things we do is roll it out and fry it on a griddle for breakfast in the morning and put butter and jelly on it. Very good. All of the kids love that. But then you can use it to make any kind of rolls. I usually do clover leaf, but you can also roll it out, sprinkle it with cinnamon and sugar, cut it like a pizza, and then roll it up like it's a croissant type shape. It won't be a croissant, but like that. Or also do sugar and orange zest on them. Roll them up. Very good. And then you just, you bake them like you would bake any kind of bread. It's not anything special.
So this is really an all year round recipe.
It really is an all year round recipe. My daughter who lives with me in Colorado, this is always on her Thanksgiving or Christmas list, is that we have this bread.
The kids probably won't let you drop it.
Yeah, probably, yes.
Another kid favorite is the rolls.
Yeah.
Sometimes my boys would pile. I'd look at their plate and it's meat and the rolls.
The rolls,
like,
right.
Okay, and meat, potatoes, and rolls. Like, okay, y'all got to go back.
When my daughter was little, she said that she had a roll rule. And the rule was everyone got one and she got the rest. So that was her roll rule.
I like it. She set the rule early. That's pretty great. And then, of course, Christmas would not be complete without dessert. You have down a whipped cream cake and a coconut cream pie. The whipped cream cake, your husband's mother introduced you to this cake. These are the best recipes when you have them handed down. Like I said earlier, They're just some of the best ones. It was originally a Betty Crocker recipe from the 1940s. It's an oldie but goodie. The simple cake never fails to draw rave reviews. It has an amazing crumb and buttery taste, and the frosting is a great foil for the cake. If I want a really impressively high cake or need more than 12 servings, I make 1.5 times the recipe and cook it in 3 9-inch pans, and sifting really is necessary with this one. These are some of your notes. Okay. So tell us a little bit about this cake. It really does sound delicious, and it doesn't look like it has an overwhelming flavor of its own to contrast with the meal. Like it would complement the meal.
Yes, it's a very vanilla cake. And I mean that in the best possible way. Mm-hmm. What is interesting about this cake, the fat in it is whipping cream that you whip before you add the other ingredients to it. And this cake does require cake flour. And that's one reason I think that has such a fine crumb to it. Mm-hmm. But it's a very light, golden, buttery color when it's baked. And it has a very, like I said, a wonderful vanilla flavor. And then you make this icing for it that is maybe a little bit like, it's not fondant because I think that has a very negative connotation, but it's a very thick, barely spreadable icing that goes on it. And it's such a great foil for the cake. They are a match made in heaven.
And then your garnish is sugared cranberries and rosemary, which would make it beautiful for your table.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a rustic looking cake because the icing is so temperamental in a way, but temperamental isn't really the right word. So it's kind of a rustic looking cake. So the sugar cranberries and
that's actually in fashion right now.
Yeah,
even for wedding cakes, I see that.
Yeah,
where you see it's a thin frosting, but you see the brown of the cake underneath.
Yeah. This one goes on thick, so you don't see it, but I think that's called naked, a naked cake. But anyway, it is very good. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very good.
Do you ever find that you can substitute cake flour? I mean, obviously you can go buy cake flour at the store, but I know I have used a substitute. Is it as good to do all-purpose flour and adding in cornstarch?
That's what I do.
Substitute?
That's what I do.
Okay.
You're just trying to lighten up the flour a little bit.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have to go buy cake flour if you had those two. That's what I usually have.
I think I do have down here at the very bottom. It says you can make your own cake flour. So if you want to do that.
She even has that in her notes.
Yeah. So anyway, that's because that's what I do.
I have read this cover to cover, but I didn't remember that. Yes, if she doesn't mind, we're going to post this because if you printed this out, this would be such a comprehensive Christmas menu, but also offers so many good tips on cooking and baking.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I feel like she needs to write a book.
Oh, yeah. I don't think that will probably happen. And again, because of the cornstarch, you want to make sure you sift really, really well. Mm-hmm. You want to sift, make sure that you've got all the lumps out of it.
Well, that's good to be told because I'm also one who kind of cheats when it comes to sifting. But on a cake for Christmas, I would do it. I would do it. And if the recipe really acts like it's pretty important, then I do it. Sometimes I cheat, but I will follow your rules.
That would be good. You would be happy if you did that.
I will be happier.
Yes.
The table will be happier.
Yes.
What about your coconut cream pie?
I think it's probably just a pretty straightforward coconut cream pie. I don't think there's anything special about it. One thing that I do that I've learned to do is to make it all in the microwave. So I've given the microwave recipe here, how I would make it in a microwave, where you split the milk and scald half of it. Mix everything else together except your extracts and butter. And then when the scalded milk is hot, pour it into your eggs and everything that you've mixed, the rest of the milk, all that kind of stuff. And then cook it in the microwave. Don't overcook it. just till it gets thick. And then you don't have the standing over the stove. It's kind of like the roux thing. You're not standing over the stove, constantly stirring so it doesn't stick. And then just put the coconut and the extracts in it, and it's an amazing pie.
That sounds
It's
delicious.
good, yeah. And I like the whitish desserts for Christmas. I think they look very pretty on the table.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so then I think there's a recipe here also for high altitude meringue.
Mm-hmm. And your own pie crust.
Yep, and a pie crust that is easy to make and pretty successful.
Mm-hmm. And a pie crust usually you can make ahead of time as well.
Yes, you can make the pie.
I know you have those instructions in here somewhere.
Yes, and you can even make the filling a couple of days ahead of time and maybe just rewarm it a little bit before you put it in the pie so that it flows nicely. You wouldn't have to rewarm it at all, but if you wanted to fill up the pie shell nicely. And a lot of recipes call for 2 cups of milk, but I do go ahead and do 3 cups of milk so you get a very full pie.
Mm-hmm. That is what your recipe says. So I like that you've put your changes in there.
Yes. And then high altitude meringue is also made with a little bit of cornstarch and is really a great meringue. It tends not to weep because of the cornstarch. And it tends to stay sealed to the crust if you've attached it well before you bake it.
Okay. Also at Christmas time, part of your menu, you mentioned a couple of drinks. One is a ginger martini, which is a warming, refreshing twist on a classic. Makes 2 martinis. And you have a recipe, of course, that you could make more depending on how many people you had coming over. You also have an adaptation for larger groups, which is amazing because you can either choose either recipe and already have it written out. And then you have a Christmas punch, a non-alcoholic punch that's a festive beverage boasting flavors of the season, which is a great punch for a drink dispenser with a spigot, or you can put it in a punch bowl or pitcher. So tell us a little bit about these recipes.
Ginger martini is something that we had somewhere and decided to try to recreate. We like to try to make it as healthy as possible, if you can do that.
Well, it has ginger and pineapple and lime.
So we tried to fresh squeeze our pineapple. We, like the day before, squeeze all of our juices so that they're fresh in a pitcher.
Juice.
Yeah, so fresh juice. And it's, a simple dinner martini. You mix your juices together, your vodka, some simple syrup.
At Christmas, can you find good pineapple? Or would you do something like that Simply Pineapple? Does that ever work?
I don't even know what Simply Pineapple is.
Have you ever heard of Simply Orange?
Oh, yes.
If you can find it, it may not be in all grocery stores, but they do have a Simply Pineapple.
I have not ever tried that. You do need the volume of the pineapple juice, so you got to mix it, and I guess be happy with the flavor.
Maybe
we have not ever had problems finding fresh
Taste.
pineapples at Christmas, so I think that they must be
maybe
good.
A tip for that. For me, I've had to buy them early so that they can ripen. A lot of times in the stores, I'm not finding that they're ripe. But maybe
interesting.
where you are,
maybe where we are, maybe we're getting
pineapples.
different. Yeah. Are you even looking at Costco?
Well, I don't know because I'm thinking back to Sam's Club, and sometimes you could find some depending on the season. But it seems like in wintertime we had to buy them and let them sit for a while.
We've not ever really had problems with it.
They were pretty ripe.
They're pretty ripe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to look at
check
Costco.
It out. Yeah. And it also has triple sec in it. Some triple sec and vodka go into that one.
Speaking of Costco, if you're making for a crowd, they sell the one here in Lewiston. They sell different liqueurs, and so in large amounts, a lot cheaper than
I don't know. I was
just
my brain is thinking right now. I know Costco also sells great frozen pineapple, and I wonder if you could thaw pineapple, put it through your juicer, collect the juice.
That's another option.
Then use it that way. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, that's very good. It's a very fun twist on a martini. We like it a lot. And then for the
before you move on, it says fresh squeezed ginger juice.
Same thing. I mean, we just have a juicer. So we just
juice ginger.
We juice ginger.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's potent.
I can
That's what makes the martini so good. And then the other punch is really a fun punch that is the taste of the season, really. It's a little spicy. It has cinnamon in it and anise seeds and, again, ginger. But it also is just a mild grape juice and sparkling water. You make a simple syrup first with the spices and some lemon and a pear. And then that can be made in advance. And then on the day of the punch, the day of Christmas, you will assemble it, slice some pears, a lemon, and then mix white grape juice, ginger ale, and sparkling water together. When I do this, I really like to put it in a jar with a spigot, and then I try to make it look festive in the jar. Like, I don't know if you know Seckel pears, which are little tiny small pears, are ripe this time of the year. Sometimes I put Seckel pears in or half Seckel pears, some sprigs of rosemary, slices of ginger, whatever to you makes it look festive. Some cinnamon sticks, that kind of stuff.
The star anise pods, do you buy those just in the regular spice section of a store?
Usually, yeah. Do you guys have natural grocers here?
Well, Rosars has an organic section, but I'm not sure if they have that. I could look in there.
Yeah, you can go look
in their
and
section.
see.
I bet it's there with their spices because they carry some specialty things.
Yeah.
And then a couple of stores have the bulk. I'm not sure if this would be in bulk.
The star anise kind of makes you think of Christmas stars, that kind of stuff. It's just a really beautiful, beautiful thing. And everyone seems to like it. Kids like it, adults like it. And I did say, you could freeze an ice thing, like a Coke bottle, a 2-liter bottle of something. You could put ice in it, water in it, and then freeze it and put it in the middle, and then put your stuff around the outside. And then that helps your punch not get so diluted as the ice slowly melts, but it will keep it cold. Anyway, it's very good.
This is a very festive menu, very special menu.
Yeah. It is. Christmas is very fun.
Another thing you mentioned at the end of this menu is that English Christmas crackers are a must for us for Christmas dinner. Buy them online at places like World Market, TJ Maxx, or Marshall's, or you can buy kits to make your own. What are English Christmas crackers?
English Christmas crackers are, I think I showed you a little picture at the bottom. That's it. So it's a little tube in the middle, like about the size of a toilet paper tube. And then the two ends are hollow. They probably have light cardboard in them, but they have little gunpowder charges in them so that when you pull them apart, they snap. And then inside the tube is always a crepe paper crown, some small prize, and usually a joke or a fortune. And so everyone cracks theirs open, everyone puts their crown on. Sometimes we try to buy Christmas crackers that everyone gets a musical instrument, a little blower, I don't know, but tuned to a different pitch. Then there's a piece of music. You can all try to play your piece of music, and you play your pitched one when it's time on the song to play Auld Lang Syne or something like that, yeah. Or sometimes they have little puzzles in them, like those little metal puzzles they twist together and try to untwist. Sometimes they have all different kinds of things. Like one time someone got 3 little tiny bowling pins and a bowling ball, a magnifying glass.
This is such a fun idea.
Yeah. And so I don't know if you've recognized that you've ever seen something that looks like that.
It looks familiar. I may not have known what it was in the store.
Yeah. And so that's what it is, a Christmas cracker. And we just lay them on the plate. That's what goes across the plate before Christmas dinner starts. And when we all sit down, everyone pops their cracker. Sometimes you can pull with your neighbor the cracker, and whoever gets the big part is like the winner, like the wishbone in the turkey. But everyone pulls their own, because in that way people don't get upset.
Everybody gets their own prize.
Everyone gets their own prize.
That's a really fun tradition. It kind of reminds me of Cracker Jacks, except this is a lot better.
Yeah.
Our kids back in the day wanted the Cracker Jack box, not because they wanted the Cracker Jacks, because there was a prize or a little tattoo or something in there. I don't remember all the things
They're very usually themed. You can make them, they come elegant. They come like with the nutcracker stuff on them. They come looking like Christmas trees. They come all kinds of ways.
Tune in next week for part 2 of our Christmas discussion. We've discussed this week all the things you need for a traditional English-inspired menu. Next week, we talk about all kinds of other things. Carole shares the easiest way to make a roux, an oven method. We talk about making your own spice mixtures, your own salad dressings. She has recipes. We talk about the best way to make hard-boiled eggs, the foolproof methods that help them peel perfectly every time. And we talk about must-have kitchen items. Of course, we have must-have kitchen items. Tune in next week to hear the wrap-up of this episode. You won't want to miss it. Be sure to rate this episode to help other listeners discover a new podcast, or tell your friends about it. If you want to connect with me on social media, I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Come Over for Dinner. and a website, comeoverfordinner.com. I'm also on patreon.com under Come Over for Dinner. There I've posted some favorite recipes, including one you definitely need to make for the holidays. Until next time, bye for now.